On the Ground Parenting is a project of Muskoka Family Focus, a registered Canadian charity. They rely on your support to keep the show going and to continue their great work helping families. To connect with our hosts and to show your support, join us at patreon.com/on the ground parenting. You can join for free or for any amount you would like to give.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to On the Ground Parenting. This is a podcast brought to you by Muskoka Family Focus Parent Ed staff. My name is Sandy Inkster, and I'm joined with my colleagues,
Sam
and Kelly.
Well, here we are. We're moving on through the winter. Just to let everyone know where we happen to be located in the world, we've had quite a bit of snow. So we have been spending a lot of time doing snow removal, shoveling, and enjoying the outdoors. I'm a big snowshoeing aficionado, and I know that my colleagues are also doing lots of snow shoveling and getting out and about. And even if they're not snowshoeing, then I know they do enjoy the view of the snow on the trees. Anything you want to add about snow, you guys?
I just love it. I love the bright, sparkly days, and I often drink my coffee and just watch the outside, and there's a particular quiet that I just love at this time of year.
How about you, Sam?
I really enjoy that quiet as well that isn't there other times of the year. Everything just has that muffled feel when you're outdoors, and the barking of the dogs doesn't seem quite so sharp, and it's delightful. And the snowflakes that we've had over the past couple days, a lot of them have been those really big fluffy ones, which are so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think about that instead of how many times I've had to clean the car off.
I know it's a whole way of life that can be exhausting and overwhelming. Similar to the two of you, I really appreciate the quiet, and I like lying out in the snow. Yeah, just lying out there, and it's so still and it's so quiet. It's really, really amazing. So, just to give you a little taste, wherever you are in the world, that's what we're experiencing in our corner of the world. It sort of brings us all together a little bit more. Because we are moving through this new year, we're about to launch into February. Why not talk about that big celebration that many people cringe over, that many people really appreciate? How many people are proposed to or become engaged on that holiday? And I see Kelly's got her tongue hanging out in disgust. And that's right. We want to say to everybody, find your own day to propose and become engaged. But yes, Valentine's Day is coming up. Some people talk about February as being the month of appreciation, gratitude, love. So we thought that we would call this month for our podcast, What is the Heart of Your Parenting Approach? And so we'll be weaving that in through the topics over the next sessions that we drop. And this one, for this session, we thought we'd like to dive into what it means to be a friend and how can we influence our children and instill in them the qualities that make up being a great friend. So, from our own perspective now, what makes you want to reach out to someone who you call a friend? What qualities do they have?
Empathy and kindness are ones that are really important for me.
I think for me, it's that feeling like I can show up 100% as myself and be seen in the best light. Like they know that I'm well-intentioned, even if I misspeak or say something, and that we can laugh together.
I appreciate what both of you have said. And I think about, there may be some common interests or maybe values that are alike. And just the ability to chat about anything forever, to laugh about things, to be able to hold one another through some tough times. I guess maybe that's a friend for me, is how much I feel like I want to share my personal details of my life. I want to talk about a time in my life when I refer to it as the loneliest year of my life. And it was the year that we moved to this community that I live in. And I still had friends where we lived, and I could phone them, and every now and again I could go see them. They're a few hours away. But just building my new friends here, it took a bit of time. And I was missing, I call them my heart friends, the people who knew when I was having an off day that that wasn't my normal. You know, I could be going a little bit loopy and they would know that's, she's not loopy all the time. So that's what I think about and how important it was for me to have friends. So, have you ever had a time when you've been looking for a friend and you've been trying to gather friends or make friends? What was it like for you?
It's such an interesting question for me because I feel like there's always been friends. There's certainly been times in my life where I may have felt a bit lonely, but for the most part, I feel like I've been very fortunate to have a good group of friends around me. And that, I mean, when I say group, that doesn't mean that, I have throngs of people who I would consider a friend, but certainly enough people that I feel seen and heard.
I think for me, I'm always open to making new friends. Like that's not something that I've shut off. And I have you too, which has been delightful and more of a recent development. But I also went through this, I did some coaching training, and one of the things they talked about there was thinking about the relationships in your life and being a little bit more intentional of the folks that fill you up and the things that the qualities that we just talked about. But how does that compare to the time on your calendar? So I've also been more mindful of who gets to be on my calendar and purposely booking dates with friends to sort of maintain those relationships. And some of them are long standing, but it was so easy to let 6 months go by without seeing each other. So now if we have a date together, we make a new date. And even if that new date gets moved, it's a way for us to make sure that we're really feeding this relationship.
Yeah, so I call them friends, and am I investing time? Am I spending time with them? Because when it's a by chance or by golly, then it might never happen. I have there's a group and we're called the Island Girls, and another group we're called Sanity Maintenance. And so we make time. Before it was we met maybe based on our kids or the activities that we were engaged in, but then after, the school connection was shifting and changing, we had to really address how we were going to be getting together and spending time. And as well during COVID, then we would gather on Zoom and we made bread together on Zoom. And so that was kind of fun. And I made playlists. So we had dance parties. They were at their own place, but we would be dancing to music and things like that. So, how do you feel when you've had a moment with your friend, had some time with your friend? What happens to you?
I think it depends on the tone of the visit because, as you both know, my best friend ever so conveniently married my cousin, who was a very close cousin. Like, we grew up basically at each other's houses all the time and things like that. So, we've had a wonderful time to be together, and sometimes we're together and we're having fun and we're doing loud things and we're playing games and whatever, and other times we're getting together and our husbands think it's hilarious because we're literally sitting on the couch reading our own books. And that's what we're doing. So, which is, we plan that. Like, that's what we plan to do. Our husbands also get along very well, which is wonderful. So they go downstairs and do whatever they're doing, playing darts or whatever. And we may be upstairs painting or chit-chatting or reading our books in silence or whatever we might be doing. So it really depends on the vibe of the time we're spending together. So sometimes I feel calm and relaxed, and other times I feel filled up with laughter and fun. And it just really depends.
Or if you've had a tough time with something, like I know that maybe I've spent time with a friend where I've been crying a lot. I've been upset about something, and my friend has been listening to me. And so I'm maybe exhausted from all of that emotion, but I'm feeling very supported and listened to, heard. So that's something else too, that it's not always like butterflies and rainbows and things like that.
Absolutely. And I think that We need to have a nickname, Sandy, because you nickname all your friend groups. And as you're talking, I'm just
Nickname
thinking
it.
we need a friend group nickname. Because I'll be honest, you two folks are probably the ones who hear the most about what's actually going on in my life. So
Oh, I feel so honored by that. That's another outcome. Not only how I feel about a friend, but to have a friend say that, like, that's an honor. I'll get on that naming of the group, the pod. I might dub you killer whales or something, right? My dolphins. Kelly, how about you? How do you feel?
I both agree with this idea of it's so nice to just hear what's on friends' minds. Like, I'm a person who just likes to know what's actually going on with you. I dislike small talk. Don't tell me about the weather or nonsense in your life. Like, it sounds cheesy, but I'm way happier to hear about how your heart's breaking or what you're really struggling with, or not that I want you to just be heartbroken and struggling, but whatever's arising for folks is what I want to talk about. And I have a tradition with one of my friends that we meet in the community that's closest to us, and we walk and we talk and we jokingly say we solve all the world's problems, and we know what each other's struggling with. And sometimes one of us does a lot of talking and the other does a lot of listening. And then the next time it might switch. And what's been really funny too is that the role of that relationship has also then infiltrated conversations with that person's boss or my other connections. So there's this joke like, now take this and go see what Kelly has to say about it and come back to me with your decision.
The ripple effect, how the circle becomes larger and larger. Yes. So that's important, I think, for us as adults, as parents, to reflect on, do I have friends, and what kind of a friend am I, and what do I look for in a friend, and what do I offer as a friend? Because modeling is really important for children. And then we take a look at, what are the other parts of being a friend? And I know we've talked about this before, that Kelly, you mentioned about making a commitment to honor the time together. And then it might be that, well, maybe you make a plan, but then you can't show up. And do you just not show up? Because that's part of being a friend too, that respectful part. And maybe you need to apologize. So how do you weave that in to your children so they understand that part of being a friend?
I love this conversation because it isn't something that I've necessarily really consciously thought about in the past, but I do feel pretty confident that what my children are seeing me model when it comes to my friends is probably fairly positive, because I like to think that my relationships with my friends are quite healthy, but definitely, letting my kiddos know that it's important to follow through with things. So if you have a commitment, to honor that commitment, or if you need to not do something, to make sure that you don't just not show up. Like, communication is such an important piece of having a relationship with anyone, and certainly for building a friendship.
Yeah, and I think my kids have watched me model with sometimes some tough choices on afternoons. And because some of the dates that I set up, there's been an ongoing agreement that we both have kids. Life goes on, it gets busy. And so sometimes that Sunday afternoon that we set aside to spend with each other can't happen. But also talking to the kids about when they have a similar thing, how to set that up. It's not just a quick text, I can't go Sunday, which is, marginally better than not showing up, but not a whole lot. But trying to offer some context and some appreciation in the same thing. This Sunday afternoon, I have a conflict. My grandma's in town. I wish we could still hang out. Could I ask for a rain check? I mean, it's a lot more words, but talking to my kids about how those texts land as opposed to can't make it.
It's a bit of reciprocity in a relationship, isn't it? How I would like to be treated. So, therefore, giving that forward to the other person. And I'm thinking, because I have a grandson who is going to be 5 real soon, you guys. He's been 4.75 for a little while, but he does say he's 44. So just thinking about the plans that occur at that age, so how adults are very involved in when a child shows an interest in somebody else or the parent knows the value of building a relationship. That's the other thing is that so if I have issues, if I'm not really social, if that's a real tough thing for me to put myself out there, if my inner voice is really critical and prohibiting me from moving forward, then that's going to also influence how my child will be able to understand how to build a friendship and how to be in a friendship if it's not happening because of my limitations. So recognizing that and seeing that having friendships, we know there's a lot of scientific evidence about the benefits of having friends, what that does, how that enriches your life. Yeah, finding that way to include a child so that they can understand about how to invite somebody over or to go play. And as you mentioned, the communication piece. And then as they grow older, how that responsibility will shift more to the child, but the parent still needs to be involved because how many times have you been around someone and they said, I had no idea. My kid just had a friend get dropped off to play. Nobody bothered to include me in that communication. So there's stuff that unfolds that as the child is growing older, that the parent still needs to be involved somewhat. But so it's a little bit of an interesting aspect of growth and development, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And because children tend to have their own devices now, that allows them to communicate on their own at an earlier age, as opposed to years ago when there was only one house phone and everyone knew who was on that house phone.
Because you follow the cord to see which room it stretched into, right?
Usually mine. But my mom wouldn't let me have a long cord.
Yeah. And one other thing I thought we would just explore before we wrapped up too is just this whole notion of friends and how depending on the individual, and it may be their personality type, it may be that they're more introverted than extroverted or vice versa, it may be that they're neurodiverse. So that friendship piece may look different for some children.
Absolutely. And it certainly looks different in my house. Ryan doesn't have any friends that are his own age at this point, and he is completely at ease with that. And I was reflecting on that after we had our little pre recording meeting. And it isn't that he doesn't have friends, it's that he really doesn't identify with people his own age. So he has I would consider his relationship with his dad to be more friendship based because he'll say things to me like, I really should probably hang out with dad soon. And then he'll text his dad and set it up. And then he'll let me know, dad's coming to pick me up. We're going to grab McDonald's and go to the park and chat or whatever's going to happen. Also, we have some very intentional relationships that really organically grew. So he has one respite provider who he's had as a respite provider since he was 6, maybe 7, and they don't hang out a lot anymore, but he will text her pictures of the pets, like just little things that he feels the need to share with her. And he knows that if there's something that comes up that he wants to talk about, he can certainly reach out to her. He used to refer to her as his second mom, but made sure to tell everyone if they were out together somewhere that she was not his mom. But it's just interesting because although he's a bit curious, or maybe more curious now about having interactions with people his own age, he doesn't feel any pressure to develop a friendship with somebody at school or something like that. And even if he did, I don't know if that would translate into him wanting to have them over in his space. He really doesn't enjoy sharing his space. He doesn't even let the pets in his room for the most part. So it is interesting for sure.
What I like about what you said, Sam, and my wheels have been turning about friendship too since we chatted, is I think we get really caught in having friends the same age, often the same grade, born in the same year, same, same, same. And I've been really talking to my kids and thinking my own self about the diversity of my friendships. Like some of my friends are 75 years old and it's delightful, and we have great conversations. Some of my friends now are the same age as my kids, but because we're in the same profession, there's a friendship mentorship there, but we've hung out and done things. And I've been really trying to encourage my kids to not discount those as quote unquote real friends. Real friends don't have to be born your birth year. Real friends can come in such a wide variety of packages.
Yeah, and I think that that's a real important consideration, is that a friend isn't just from a peer group. So people will ask me, who's your best friend? Well, I don't have like a best friend. I was sort of, when I was faced with that challenge, it was sort of like, oh, that's just too restrictive. I can't do that.
Can't pick just one.
No, I have many best friends. But one of my best friends she was 20 some years older than me. Well, she was around the same age as my mom, but we met because we were both musicians. So she was my accompanist. I have such fond memories of March break, sitting out on her deck, glass of wine, listening to the ice break up on the lake, because it makes a real special sound. And just things, we could talk about anything and everything. Yeah, not the weather, Kelly, not the weather. Yeah. Well, I think that this is a little taste for everyone. We're going to develop more about being friends, what it means to be a friend, what happens if the friendship develops into something else. And we'll just explore that over this month and give everybody an opportunity to reflect on who are the friends that you have, and what qualities do you look for in a friend, and how are you as a friend? Is there anything that you would like to do differently? So what's rising up for you about this topic of being a friend, or how can I instill in my child how to be a friend?
For me, it just kind of solidifies a conversation that I need to have with the teaching team at my son's school about what friendship looks like to him, because there's always pressure, particularly when you have a neurodiverse child, for them to develop friendships within their peer group, which it can be very important, absolutely, but it isn't necessarily the most important friendship for them to develop. So I think that it's a good lens for me to look at when we're having those meetings. Because he isn't developing friendships in a classroom doesn't mean that he hasn't gained the skills to develop a friendship outside of the classroom.
I think for me, Sam, it's kind of similar and kind of different at the same time. It's an ongoing conversation as my kids are becoming adults and trying to figure out their friends. I'm super grateful for the friends that I have. I'm grateful for the two of you. I'm grateful for my breakfast buddies and my coaching buddy and all of these people in my life. But I also keep reminding my kids that took me a long time of working on my own stuff, having friends, finding them in all the weird and wonderful places. This is a collection that has taken me the better part of 5 decades to create. And so trying to encourage my kids to be patient and hold on to those gems when they find them.
What's rising up for me is the encouragement that gaining a friend does not happen at any one particular age or stage of my life. Just recently, I have a new neighbor, and I know both of you have heard about my new neighbor. And not only is it a 2-legged new neighbor, but there are 4-legged furry new friends in my life. There is a dog who grins and runs to me. And so that's a whole other way of having a friend. And then the cat, when I go in too, the cat will do that sideways little shuffle that a cat will do and suss me out. But here I am now. I hadn't anticipated that I was going to be finding a new friend, and I didn't actually work hard. It happened. Serendipitous friends are delightful to have manifest in your life too. Thanks, everyone. We will see you for more sessions of what is the heart of your parenting approach. And this was all about making friends. See you next time.
On the Ground Parenting is a production of Muskoka Family Focus's parent education program. It is made possible by the generous donations of listeners like you. If you'd like to make a donation, sponsor an episode, or just ask a question of one of our hosts, go to linktr.ee/onthegroundparenting. On the Ground Parenting is produced and published by Red Juice Studios. To learn more, go to redjuicestudio.com. Thanks for listening.